And we were talking a moment ago before we started interviewing about Kafka and the role of ambiguity.
Yeah.
And there's also a quote from Kandinsky that says, "The role of the artist is to drag the obstinate cart of humanity into the future." There's a threat and a danger that Kafka calls the terror of art. Is there possibly a design in the fact that artists don't necessarily have a voice, and if they do have a voice, and you say people are ready for a new awakening, are people ready? Will that voice be heard?
Art can be terrifying, and in a sense, while art contains terror and gives it a certain aesthetic frame, you know, it puts terror on a canvas, or it puts terror, you know, like roadkill, or, you know, those paintings, or, you know, it contains terror in a kind of civilized manner, but it's still terrifying. Often the core messages in art are terrifying messages, and unfortunately a majority of people don't want to be terrified. You know, they want to be comforted, or they want to be flattered. And I think, for instance, that's why it's easier to back a sporting hero that gives your nation and your personal identity prowess, what they call bragging rights and things like that. It's actually easier to buy into that kind of culture than it is to buy into a culture which is about framing terror. But I think the arts, the job of the arts is to speak the unspeakable. You know, the job of the arts is to put on canvas or on paper or wherever, in buildings for architects, you know, thoughts and feelings that we have, but we dare not express for some reason. Maybe we fear that is, you know, that way madness lies. We have a fear of the emotions, and it's the job of the arts to express the emotions. That's always been the job of the arts and always will be. Those people in society who value having the emotions, such as terror, expressed, will value the arts. But those people who find that far too confronting, you know, they may never participate in the arts or experience a personal, you know, you have to feel that the arts are talking to you, that they're actually speaking to you. And until that time, the arts remain outside your personal precinct. That's the big thing. You see, if we in Australia can appreciate the terror of the land and realise it's not just occasional, it's actually a permanent feature of this place, there will always be moments of terror. If we can understand that, we're never going to humanise that terror out of existence, then the arts that speak to that terror will speak to more people. But until that time comes, you know, people are going to resist the arts as being, you know, too far above them and too far removed from their normal experience. So if we open up our hearts to a broader perspective on life, then the arts speak to us with greater ease and accessibility.
Would you think that there's possibly a role for artists to work with the leaders from community and business and government and from academia to actually spearhead a discussion generally with the more broad community to make those linkages?
I think there's a need to educate the broader public, and I think it needs to be done at the earliest level. Of children in schools need to understand that arts are not just for funny people called artists, but arts are for everybody. You know, that arts teach us how to live richer lives, and once people connect with that and feel that as a part of their experience, then the arts come alive. We do have a job in Australia. You know, we are traditionally an anti-intellectual culture, and anything that speaks of the intellect or anything that's difficult is going to be often labelled un-Australian. So we have to try and work against that. It often means artists have to make a special effort to actually cross that gap.
If you had a wildest dream of the learning that needs to be done for Australians to deal with living here, what does that look like? What would it be if Australians were to ultimately reconcile with the land? What would change?
I mean, my ultimate dream would be to have Aboriginal people, artists and ecologists all talking to each other in Australia about the place. sharing stories and insights about the place, and not just for each other but for the general community. So we need artists, Aboriginal people and ecologists to engage the broader public, probably in schools and certainly on television and certainly on radio, to open up people's lives to a broader experience. And I think that would be my dream for the future of Australia.